You know how sometimes you find these places, these sort of hidden gems, where the land itself feels like it's full of stories? That's really the feeling you get in Minnesota's wilderness.
Oh, absolutely. It's that magnetic pull.
Exactly. And today we're going to really dive into one of those special spots, Bearhead Lake State Park.
It really is more than just, a pretty park. It's like a living history book almost.
Yeah.
You've got the geology, the human history, the wildlife. It's all woven together there.
Right. It's a great way to see how nature and people have kind of shaped a place over a long time.
Hmm.
And we're talking about a place that's not just nice for like a quick visit. It's steeped in history. It's beautiful, obviously, and just packed with things to do, whether you're, really outdoorsy or just want some peace and quiet.
Yeah, definitely.
So, our mission today is to unpack the story of Bearhead Lake, starting from how it was formed way back, right up to how it became known as America's favorite park, which is pretty cool.
It is. And to do that, we've pulled together quite a bit of information. We looked at the official stuff from the Minnesota DNR, of course, but also articles about its history, its
And
features.
even personal accounts, right? What visitors actually experienced.
Exactly. People's own stories from visiting the park. We
Mm.
want to kind of weave all that together to give you, the listener, a really full picture of what makes Bearhead Lake tick.
Okay, so starting at the very beginning, the geology. How did this landscape even come to be? Sounds like glaciers played a big role.
Oh, a huge role. Like its neighbor, Eagle's Nest Lake, Bearhead Lake itself, and all those rolling hills around it, they were basically sculpted by glaciers during the last ice age. They're like giant, moving ice sheets just grinding and carving the land.
It's hard to really wrap your head around that kind of power.
It is. And it wasn't subtle.
But it's not just ancient history, is it? You can actually still see the evidence today.
You absolutely can. If you're driving around or walking near the lake, especially look at road cuts or along the shoreline, you'll see all sorts of different rocks, different shapes, different sizes.
Glacial erratics, they call them.
Spot on. Rocks carried sometimes huge distances
Yeah.
by the ice and then just dropped when the glaciers melted. They're like little souvenirs from the ice age right
Yeah.
there in the park. And they contribute to the soil types too.
Fascinating. Okay, so fast forward thousands of years, humans arrive, and the story shifts towards logging, starting around 1895.
That's right. That late 19th, early 20th century period was big for logging all across northern Minnesota, and Bearhead Lake was right in the thick of it. By 1907, you even had a sawmill set up by the Allen and Wittenberg Company.
A sawmill right there, on the South Shore, the sources say.
Right on the South Shore. That tells you it was a pretty serious operation. They were there for a couple of seasons.
But they didn't stay long.
No, they sold out, and then the Tower Lumber Company took over the mill. But they only ran it for about 2 years themselves before they packed it up, dismantled it, and moved it back to Tower.
So that was kind of the end of the major logging right around the lake itself.
Yeah, pretty much. The buzz of the sawmill faded, but the landscape had definitely been changed. And then came something else. Fire.
Right. The fires between 1911 and 1913. Our research mentioned those were quite significant.
Very significant. They weren't just small brush fires. These were major wildfires that burned through large parts of what's now the park. A huge impact on the forest ecosystem.
Wow. Can you still see signs of those fires today, over a century later?
You can, actually. If you hike some of the trails, keep an eye out for old charred pine stumps. They're still there. Silent reminders of that fiery period.
Incredible. And then there's this sort of gap in the documented history, isn't there? After the logging and fires, before it became a park.
Yeah, it seems like the area was left to regenerate, more or less. Maybe people started realizing its natural beauty needed protecting, leading up to.
Its official creation as a state park, which didn't happen until 1961 by the Minnesota legislature.
Right. Quite a while after the logging stopped, it suggests, a period where nature was recovering and maybe attitudes were shifting towards conservation and recreation.
And that conservation effort clearly paid off because the park gained this huge recognition later on. In 2010, it was voted America's favorite park. That's that's a massive title.
It really is, especially when you hear who it beat. This was a nationwide contest sponsored by Coca-Cola, and Bearhead Lake came out on top, even against places like Great Smoky Mountains National Park.
Against the Great Smoky Mountains. Wow, that says a lot about how much people love this place.
It really does. It speaks volumes about its unique charm, its connection with visitors, and it wasn't just bragging rights either.
Oh, there was a prize involved.
Yes, the park got a $100,000 grant from the America State Parks Foundation, thanks to that Coca-Cola Live Positively initiative. A really nice boost for the park's resources.
That's fantastic. Okay, so for anyone listening who's now thinking, I need to see this place, where exactly is America's favorite park?
It's up in northeastern Minnesota in St. Louis County, pretty close to the town of Ely, which many people know as a gateway to the Boundary Waters.
Right, Ely's a familiar name up there. Got an address or coordinates?
Yep, the address is 900 3-on-1 Bearhead State Park Road, ELI, MN 55731. And for the GPS folks, it's north 47 degrees 47.670, west 92 degrees 4.725.
Perfect. And how big are we talking? What's the scale of the park?
Well, the official boundary covers 5,685 acres. The state actually owns a slightly smaller portion within that, about 4,398 acres. Sometimes there are, private lands within the statutory boundaries.
Still, that's a pretty good chunk of land.
Oh, yeah, plenty of space. It protects a really nice variety of habitats and those geological features we talked about.
And all that space means lots of things to do. The sources we looked at listed a ton of activities. Let's talk about summer first. What can you do when the weather's warm?
Summer is prime time, for sure. You've got 14 miles of hiking trails, which is great, plus biking, even mountain biking options. Horseback riding, picnicking, the usual lovely park stuff.
And camping, I assume.
Definitely. Lots of camping. Drive-in sites for convenience, group camping, but also more adventurous options like backpack sites and even canoe-in sites.
Oh, canoe-in sites sound cool. What else? Any water activities or more adventurous stuff?
Absolutely. The lake is great for swimming. Boating, too. But there's a 10-mile-per-hour speed limit, which keeps things nice and calm, perfect for canoeing and kayaking.
Good. Keeps it peaceful.
Yeah. And for those looking for a bit more vertical challenge, there's even rock climbing and bouldering opportunities. Plus, it's known for birding, photography, geocaching, really something for everyone.
Sounds like a summer paradise. But Minnesota gets cold. What about winter? Does the park just shut down?
Not at all. It just transforms. Winter brings a whole different set of activities. You've got cross-country skiing, 9 miles of trails, and 7 of those are groomed.
Groomed trails are nice.
Yeah, makes a big difference. There's skate skiing, too, and winter hiking, snowshoeing. You can pretty much snowshoe anywhere you want in the park, which is fantastic.
Total freedom on snowshoes. Any snowmobiling.
Yep, there are 4.5 miles of groomed snowmobile trails right in the park, and crucially, they connect up with the Taconite State Trail System.
Ah, the Taconite Trail? We saw that mentioned. That's a pretty major trail network up there, isn't it? Mostly for snowmobiles.
Primarily, yes. In winter, it's a big snowmobile corridor. But the sections that run through Bearhead Lake Park, you can hike those in the warmer months, too. Gives you a different way to experience that part of the park.
Okay, good to know. Now, you mentioned tranquility earlier. Our sources really seem to highlight Bearhead Lake as a place to find serene trails and those beautiful lake views, maybe without huge crowds.
That's a big part of its appeal, I think. It can often feel less congested than some other really popular state parks. You get more of that feeling of solitude. The Nordberg Lake Trail is a perfect example. It's a 3-mile loop around this really pretty smaller lake.
Sounds lovely. Any specific trail conditions to be aware of, maybe early or late season?
Well, yeah, if you go in early May, for instance, you might still find some snow patches lingering in shady spots, or maybe a few downed trees from winter storms that the crews haven't gotten to yet. It's always smart to check conditions before you head out, especially shoulder seasons. Good advice. Are there other spots known for those classic lake views?
The trail section along East Bay is really nice for that. And there's a short little path that takes you right down to the water there. Perfect for just stopping and soaking it all in.
Nice.
And if you really want to get away from it all, grab a canoe. You can paddle across Bearhead Lake and portage over to Holter Lake. That offers some serious seclusion.
Paddling and portaging. That sounds like a real Minnesota adventure. Now, speaking of wild, what about wildlife? What might you actually see out there?
Oh, the park is definitely teeming with wildlife. We found some really interesting stories, like from a Girl Scout troop. They found what they thought was bear scat on the Nordberg Trail.
Okay.
But then they visited the Bear Center in Ely later and realized, nope, it was wolf scat. A cool learning moment. They also found an owl pellet near East Bay, another great find.
Learning moments in nature, that's fantastic. Did they see the park's namesake? Any bear encounters? They did. They mentioned a curious bear came near their campfire one evening at the guest house, but they stressed it seemed more curious than threatening.
Important distinction.
Very. It's a good reminder these are wild animals. Respect their space, store your food properly, be bear aware. Most encounters are totally fine if you're smart about it.
Absolutely crucial. So, besides bears and wolves, what else is common?
You'll likely see white-tailed deer, pine martens, red squirrels, snowshoe hares are around too. And definitely keep an eye on the sky. Bald eagles are seen really frequently.
Bald eagles. Wow.
Yeah, one visitor specifically logged seeing both a bald eagle and a common loon. Reptile-wise, you might spot snapping turtles or painted turtles, even interesting fungi like the bear's head tooth or insects like the elm sawfly,
Bear's head tooth fungus? That's fitting.
isn't it? And importantly, the park is home to 4 plant species that have conservation status in Minnesota, which really highlights its ecological value.
It sounds like a really vibrant place. And the birds.
Yeah.
You mentioned eagles and loons, but our sources flagged it as a real birding hotspot.
It absolutely is. The DNR even has a specific bird checklist just for Bearhead Lake State Park. That's a great resource if you're into birding.
Where are the best spots to look? Any specific areas mentioned?
For those boreal species, the birds of the northern forests, the Taconite Trail near Eagle's Nest Lake #3 is supposed to be excellent. Think gray jay, ruffed grouse, maybe a black-backed woodpecker, hermit thrush, winter wren.
Sounds like a checklist challenge right there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes, if you're lucky, maybe even a Connecticut warbler. For easier spots, the picnic areas are apparently good for seeing bald eagles and also merlin.
Okay.
And if you're there in the evening, just listen. You'll almost certainly hear the common loons calling on Bearhead or Eagle's Nest lakes. It's that iconic sound of the Northwoods.
Oh, yeah. Nothing like it. So if people want to stay overnight and really soak all this in, what are the lodging options like? Sounds like there's a variety.
There really is. For larger groups or just folks wanting more comfort, there's the guest house. It sleeps up to 10 people. Fully equipped kitchen, bathrooms, bedrooms, living areas. Like a rental cabin right in the park.
Nice. Year round.
Yep, year-round. It even has its own little trail down to North Bay, plus a fire pit, patio, grill, the works.
Sounds perfect for a family or group trip. What about something a bit more rustic but still with a roof?
Then you've got the camper cabins. There are 5 of them near the North Bay docks. They're more basic single-room bunk beds, sleeps up to 6. But they do have heat, so they're available in winter too.
Heat is good for winter.
Definitely. And each one has a picnic table and fire ring outside. Then, of course, there's the main campground. 73 sites, many geared towards RVs and campers, and 45 of those have electricity. Lots of nice wooded sites.
Standard campground setup. Any options for more remote camping?
Yes, there's one group campsite over by East Bay for up to 50 people. And for backpackers, there are 4 sites tucked away, 3 on Blueberry Lake, 1 on Becky Lake.
Backpacking sites. Nice. And the canoe sites you mentioned.
All right, 2 designated canoe-in sites. One on the south side of Bearhead Lake itself, and one over in East Bay. And like we talked about, portaging into Holter Lake opens up even more remote possibilities.
So, from a full house to paddling into your own little spot. Really covers the spectrum. Okay, let's talk practicalities. If someone's planning a trip, what do they need to know? Hours? Fees?
Yes, sure. The park's open 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily. You'll need a park permit. It's $7 for a day pass, or $35 for an annual Minnesota State Parks pass, which is a great deal if you visit parks often.
Good value. Maps available.
Yep, you can get campground maps and all-season trail maps online, usually as PDFs or even GeoPDFs you can use on your phone. And the Trail Center is worth checking out. It's a warming house in winter, has interpretive displays, just a good central spot. It's built sustainably, too.
Trail Center. Good tip. Anything else for planning? Especially winter.
For winter, you can often rent snowshoes right at the park office, which is handy if you don't own a pair. But definitely check snow depth and trail conditions before you go. Conditions can change fast.
Always smart in winter. And park rules. The basic do's and don'ts.
Standard state park rules, mostly. No hunting. Pets need to be on a leash. No cars or ATVs on the trails. Critically, don't feed the animals. And don't collect rocks or plants. Leave things as you find them.
Leave no trace principles.
Exactly. Park only in designated spots. Respect quiet hours, usually 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. Make sure your vehicle has that park permit displayed. Boat speed limit is 10 mile an hour. And don't gather firewood by it locally or bring certified wood to prevent spreading pests.
All important points for being a good visitor. What about outside the park? Anything nearby?
Elin is the main nearby town. It's got shops, restaurants, ice cream, plus the International Wolf Center and the North American Bear Center, which are both really popular and educational.
Ah, right. The centers are there.
Yeah. And you're right near the boundary waters, so you can plan a day trip canoe paddle in the BWCA. Just need a day use permit for that. Or check out other parks like Lake Vermilion Sudan Underground Mine State Park or Hayes Lake State Park.
So Bearhead Lake is really a fantastic base camp for exploring that whole area.
It really is. It just brings together so much The deep history from the glaciers and logging, that America's favorite park status, the sheer variety of things to do year-round, the amazing wildlife, the different ways to stay. It's got adventure and tranquility side by side.
It sounds like a place that really stays with you.
I think so. It lets you connect with nature in a really meaningful way.
So as you're thinking about your own adventures, maybe Bearhead Lake State Park is calling to you. What part of its story, what experience resonates most? Is it picturing those ancient glaciers? Hiking to a quiet overlook? Hearing a loon call across the water at sunset? Maybe canoeing into a remote campsite? Whatever it is, this Minnesota gem definitely seems worth exploring.